Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, Stories from the 78 in Roselle. You're looking at Linford Winery right here in the heart of Roselle, otherwise known as the second home for one Jeff Hoover. And Jeff has been at WGN for 20 years, and I was with Jeff as a coworker for the better part of 15. We shared an office for the last 10 years of my life at WGN, and I thought, you know what, it's a great opportunity for me to have Jeff tell his story, because his story I feel like is incredible. And Jeff plays characters on TV, but a lot of people don't know the real Jeff. And I've been fortunate enough in my life to know the real Jeff Hoover, who is an amazing, passionate, and excellent storyteller. So this is his story of the 78. So we're gonna swing inside here. I'm gonna find Jeff, and we're gonna do a little Q&A of Mr. Jeff Hoover for this story from the 78 in Roselle.
Welcome to my second home, Linford Winery in beautiful Roselle.
This Linford Winery right there.
Cha-ching!
Jeff Hoover, how are you?
I'm great. When I got a glass of wine in my hand, how could you be any better?
I know, and this is, I felt like I've talked about this place with you probably 100 times in just conversations. So for background, we shared an office at WGN. We were work husbands.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So there was many conversations.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing at all. In fact, some of the great conversations from those moments of why I wanted to do this today, because I feel personally that perhaps a lot of people think they know Jeff Hoover on TV, but they don't know Jeff Hoover, like the guy who really cares a lot about things that people might not think you care about. And I mean that as a compliment.
I appreciate that. First of all, in 2002, when my wife and I were looking for a home, we were just married, living in an apartment.
Tracy would be your wife.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
My first wife. And only wife. She says, hey, what kind of house you looking for? Do you want a fireplace, a pool, a deck? And I'm like, I don't want to be far away from Linford. So we found our home like 3 blocks away.
Literally, you can walk here if you wanted to.
I can, and stumble home.
Right. You've ridden your bike here, you've walked here. Have you taken a cab home from here?
No, but we've taken our go-karts here.
What?
Yeah. You guys be careful, because you're pretty low to the ground when you're in a go-kart.
I love that you guys have a go-kart, first of all. That's amazing.
When you have the toy insider mom on the show and she can't ship the toys back to wherever she lives, she's like, you can have these. So I'm like, okay. So I currently have like 2 or 3 go-karts in the garage.
The perk of being a producer, right?
Yeah. And if you're a guest at our house or one of our parties, probably a good chance that the go-karts are coming out of the garage at some point. Which,
by the way, your wife is the hostess with the mostest. I've had the privilege of being at your house for a little get-together. She's an amazing cook, amazing host, and she's just all-around great person. So before we got too far through this, and people will know her from Happy Hours with the Hoover.
Yeah, the show that
Hoovers.
we started.
I just said that completely backwards. Happy Hour with the
Hoovers. It all started.
I said Happy Hours
during the pandemic, during the lockdown, and we're trying to figure out how we're gonna do this 24/7, both working from home. Luckily, being able to work from home together. What are we gonna do? So we start drinking. We'd say, okay, at 6 o'clock we'll make a cocktail, and it started with a photo, and then it became video, 4-minute videos, and those became now like 10-minute videos. And because of the connection to WGN, I had access to people like Brian Cranston.
Yeah, you had some A-listers on there.
Phil Rosenthal from Somebody Feed Phil.
And Everybody Loves Raymond, right? Fame?
Yeah. Dennis DeYoung from Styx, and we've had some special guests. We've done live on location, and we were doing it 5 nights a week. Now we're doing it 1 night a week. But we're still doing it. She hasn't repeated a cocktail. She's become a mixologist, not officially, but it's amazing that she's able to keep finding recipes, and then being a good cook, she knows how to give her own special twist to it, coming up with fun facts, and I just stand there and be an idiot like normal. But getting back to what you said about people not knowing me, that's partially my fault, because I do characters. I mean, it's weird. I work on a news show and I do characters. So you got Wink Winkle, you got Brad the Robot, Cletus T. Hognut. I used to do this character named Warren, the oldest intern. There's been a few that just kind of went, put them to rest. But the fact that you're on a news show and you do characters, that's one of the reasons we're such a unique morning show, as you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like you do the news and you do it credibly, and you make sure you're doing, the latest information and breaking the news when it happens, but you want to make time for fun and smiles. And I hate to say that, it sounds corny, but we really truly do. We want to send people off to work or school with a smile if we can.
Absolutely.
And it's harder and harder every day the way the
Especially
news cycle is,
yeah.
But we do a great job, and I'm very happy. 20 years plus into it. I've had
That's no small feat.
a good run. I'm glad I got out of radio. I'm glad I had the radio experience. I worked with
Me
Jonathan
too.
Brandmeier.
Yeah.
I learned everything with Johnny B. He gave me my first opportunity. It was a win tickets to see Jerry Lewis. I did a pretty passable Jerry Lewis.
Speaking of characters,
Oh yeah! Hi neighbor, hi. Anyway, it started with that. He rolled the dice on me, so let's try it out for 90 days, see if you like me and if I still like you. And I think the first day, James Mason, old actor, if you're like 40 or under, you don't know who James Mason is, but he was in the original A Star Is Born,
Oh, yeah.
Journey to the Center of the Earth. He was in The Verdict with Paul Newman, and he had a voice like this, and he was in a movie called The Verdict with Paul Newman, if you look it up. He sounded quite a bit like this, and we did a call to heaven and talked to what's his name? What did I say his name? Whatever his name was, James Mason.
James Mason,
So
yeah.
on my first day, so I kind of earned my keep on my very first day with Brandmeier, pulling out another character he didn't know I could do, and over the course of almost 10 years with Brandmeier, that's how I learned how to book guests. That's how I learned how, when you had a guest booked, what can you do with them that would be different than what all the other radio shows
right,
are
that's
doing?
half the battle, is just booking the guests.
So
Well,
all those skills
yeah.
I learned with radio, with Brandmeier, I had to prove that those skills were transferable to television. So when I was watching in 2001, Brandmeier didn't sign his contract. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? So I sent my resume out to Howard Stern, to Conan O'Brien, to Jay Leno, to Letterman, and to all of the places I've sent. The only person I heard back from was Baba Booey. Gary Dell'Abate called me on the phone one day. Howard heard your tape. He likes, we got rid of Jackie the Joke Man. He left. How do you work? And I was so shocked, so surprised. I don't think I really reacted the way I should have. I was blown away. And instead of blown away confident, I was blown away like, wait, am I good enough? Can I do this? So I was like second guessing myself with him on the phone. I should have said, you want to know how I work? I'll be there tomorrow. Instead, I was like, let me talk to my wife. Maybe I could do a Jerry Lewis bit. The Labor Day telethon's coming up. And Gary's like, all right, if you want to. So I did. It went really well. And I was up for an F Emmy. He used to call the Emmy Awards on his radio show the F Emmy, and so I was up for an award. And I think I may have scared Gary a little bit because I wanted him to know, I'm more than a guy that does voices.
Right, sure.
I know how to book guests. I know how to come up with show ideas. I wanted to show him that I'm more than just a character voice or a celebrity impersonation. So I would listen to the show, and I'm like, oh, they're going to have Gilbert Gottfried on. Well, they could do this with Gilbert. And I typed these emails to Gary, and none of the emails were coming back. So I think I don't have confirmation, but in my feeling, and rightfully so, I think he probably looked at it as do I need a guy who's possibly going to gun for my job? He didn't need.
Sure, that was
He wanted. It would have been great support to him, but he may have felt threatened, and I by no means wanted to put that out there as a threat. I just was trying to show him hey, come on, I'm all purpose. I'm multitask. I can do a lot of different things. Don't put me in just the box that I'm an impressionist. I can book guests. I can be a supportive person to the show in other ways. So I started watching WGN Morning News. They do a segment called Voicemail Frenzy. And so I started calling in because I watched the show.
That's how it started?
Yeah, so that somebody would comment about Larry's
Incredible.
eyes, and I remember doing a wacky weenie about he's got Larry Potash eyes to that song.
Betty Davis eyes.
Davis
Yeah.
eyes. I'm very old and I'm forgetting a lot of things.
That's why we're doing this on
Yeah.
tape.
So it started with that, and then one day Larry on the air said, "Who is this guy? He's producing more than the people that actually officially produce on the show."
Just a very Larry thing to say.
Yeah. So I somehow got his email, and I emailed him, and I said, "Hey, I'm that guy." And he's like, "Oh, well, we're having a party at this location on this date. If you want to swing by, I'd love to meet you." So I went. He didn't know what I looked like. Obviously, I knew what he looked like because he is Larry Potash. And I went up to him and I go, "Hey, I'm Jeff Hoover." And he looked at me. He goes, "You're not as weird as I thought you would be."
Again, very Larry Potash.
Another Larry Potash kind of thing to say. And he helped me get my foot in the door, and I started per diem, so I get paid by the bit. So
No pressure.
yeah, early on it was like, "Hey, Tom Skilling, karaoke Christmas. You want to do a bit where it's like a KTEL Records thing, and you could sing Christmas carols." So he trusted me, and that ended up being like a big home run, a big.
I think we still show that
Yeah,
to
you
this day.
still show it,
Yeah.
and people still think it's a real holiday album they can get. So yeah, I earned my keep, and after about a year and a half, Fox was looking for a sports producer. I know nothing really about sports, and Bruce Wolf was the sports guy there, and he's like, "Well, you can fake it. I think once they see the other things you can do, and your background in producing and radio, I think they'll find room for you." Well, I'm not gonna lie, I let it kind of leak out that, because WGN at the time was not making any moves to bring me on full time.
Right.
And I was starting to look at my transcripts from college to see maybe about going back to school to be a teacher.
Really?
And when
never knew that.
when I got my transcripts back, I thought, "Ooh, I wouldn't want this guy to teach my kids." So I kind of let it leak out that Fox was interested, and then Caputo, and if you're watching, hello.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
I kind of let it out that they were kind of sniffing around, and no disrespect, but he didn't go out of his way to have conversations with me. But then one day he was like, "Hey, stop by my office." And
That's
he's like,
very him.
don't do anything yet. We're going to try to find a way to find something for you." So I got a segment producer job, and technically speaking, I've been a segment producer for 20 years who has his own segment on Mondays for the last 8 years or so, or 9 years.
Yeah.
But I pop up here and there. But I have no grand aspirations beyond what I'm currently doing. I fill in on Around Town once in a while for Anna, and I'm so happy that she trusts me enough to not destroy that franchise, because it's certainly a lot of fun. And I try to find a place that I'm very comfortable in.
Yeah. Ding, ding. Bring that right
And-
there. There it is. There we go.
So that's very fun to do on occasion, and then I get to fill in more recently on trending news, which they know I'm not going to stink it up too badly. Although it is exciting to be on the anchor desk, because whenever I do my segments on Monday, I'm usually in the newsroom far from where the anchor talent is at. And that's kind of by choice. I mean, I
I
probably
almost feel like
could-
that would be more intimidating just because you had the whole newsroom looking at you.
Yeah, well,
I would find that more
that's why I
intimidating.
tape a lot of my stuff, because I can
sure.
sleep better on a Sunday night, not knowing,
I
knowing that
100% get
it's not
that.
going to be live, and the pressure,
Yeah.
the butterflies are still flapping. So I think that's a good thing. If you ever get too comfortable where you're not a little worried or a little concerned or a little nervous that something may not go right, I mean, that's live TV. That's the best thing. Live TV can also be a gift. I mean, filling in for Anna one morning at a My Party Princess. I don't have kids.
I remember that.
And I'm surrounded by all these little girls.
Did you make a kid
in
cry?
their princess costumes, and they come to me live, and they're serving cake at the table, and all these little cute girls in their princess costumes. And I thought it would be cute and fun to take the little girl to my right's cake and just tease her and take her cake away from her, and she bursted out bawling. And to this day, and whenever I fill in for Around Town, there's always one of you crazy viewers out there that gives me a bunch of guff about that, because it ended up being a great live moment.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's
at
the beauty of
time, I
live
was
TV.
like, oh,
They'll
no.
never do it
But
again.
after it was done, I'm like, you know what? That was pretty great. I mean,
Because great TV,
you can't
live TV.
orchestrate.
No, we can't.
You can't
We
rehearse
tried.
that. Yeah, we tried, but live TV, even when it fails, can be a great success. So,
Absolutely.
and I think that's kind of our show. Like, we fail a lot, but it's how you react to the fail.
100%.
Like, do you own it? Do you own it? Yeah, own it, because don't act like it didn't happen. We all saw it happen.
So did millions of others, right?
So
Like,
embrace the fact that the live shot went, kaputs during the live report. Have fun with it. And I think that I've heard Larry refer to Sam Rubin giving them that idea. Like, hey, you know what? Celebrate those moments.
Right.
Don't run from it. Don't try to hide it. There are a few things that we hide, though. Like
Sure.
the time that the plane crash happened. That wasn't a real plane crash.
no, it was Chicago Fire.
Yeah, they were shooting something. And,
On like Lakeshore Drive, I think. South
and
Lakeshore
think
Drive.
about it. You're the executive producer. You're in the booth.
We won't mention any names.
Skycam 9 calls the control room, said there's a small plane. It appears to have crash landed on Lakeshore Drive. We're above it now. Do you want to take the shot? Now, if I'm the executive producer and you want to hang your hat on being breaking news, you take that shot.
And this was really big at the time of being breaking news.
Right.
Like, it was a new
that was
big
going to be our thing. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to go after ABC7, who's
Yeah.
known to be a breaking news station. We're going to challenge them, and we're going to show that we can do breaking news. So this person made the call. Take the shot. What information do we have? Well, we don't have a lot of information. We can say we don't have a lot of information now. Skycam 9's over what appears to be a plane crash, which is what we did. Larry and Robin did a great job.
Sure did.
We stayed with the story. Fast forward maybe 10 minutes later, we find out that it's Chicago Fire. And they didn't do the right thing by notifying all the press.
Nope.
And letting them know that, hey, we're staging this thing. So
I think that was on purpose, too.
we
Little
didn't
elements.
embrace that one. I think they felt...
That wasn't the bridge implosion that we
Yeah, there
embraced.
wasn't a bridge implosion. This was... That one we can laugh at, but that one I can still laugh at. But I think they felt like that was a little... They bit the hook a little hard.
They took it on the chin. On that
Yeah.
I think
I thought we did the right thing. I would have made the same call. I think anybody in that position, I mean, you're trying to be a breaking news station. It looks like a plane crash. What are you going to do? You got the Skycam 9 over. You got the exclusive. We're going to keep following up on the information. You did the right thing. I mean,
I agree, 100%. That's the newsroom.
I don't watch Chicago Fire anymore.
Although you had the jacket for a while.
I do. I still have it. Yeah.
That's a great
And I
jacket.
like David Eigenberg, and yeah.
Speaking of, so I mean, we were talking about the guests and failures and everything else, and I think it speaks volumes that the segment producers at WGN sit in one room together. Most of them, I should say, or at least the golden era of it. Where it was Tyra Martin, and then you had yourself,
Terry Barthel,
and Natalie Scrid, all in there. But we're in there for a reason, because you bounce ideas off each other, and you have guy moments. Like, you would always come in. I was there early because I had to be there at 4:30, 4:45, even though it's supposed to be at 4, whatever. But then you would come in, and then it would be Tyra that would come in later, But we had those moments, you and I, where we would just either let one rip because it was a safe space, right?
Don't tell our secrets.
Or, bounce ideas off each other, or commiserate over like what happened the day before. We're like, let's not ever do that again. That sucked, or that was really great. But I remember this in my time away from WGN, really reflecting on it, about how tormented you would be when you were worried about something. Like, I think that's the thing the biggest takeaway for me is that I knew that you cared about stuff. But when you're around the same people for 10 plus years, you assume everybody's like those people, right? So when I left...
It's a control thing, I think, because you can produce a segment or an interview with a guest to the hilt. You can make sure all the information's in there, all the video to tease this segment is there. That the intro,
like it's a home run.
I mean, you can make sure it's all there, but ultimately, unless you're up there on the set, you don't have the control anymore. So it's up to them, you have to trust that they take the time to look at the tip sheet, maybe some sample questions that you put out there, some fun facts, some tidbits that maybe they'll help them form a question, or, but ultimately it's out of your hands at that point. You just have to kind of cross your fingers that it goes well. Or in some cases, we don't do this often. Sometimes someone will be a guest and maybe they had a DUI, or they had a bad breakup, or something that was
something
very awkward, and they kind of like give you like, hey, I'd appreciate if we didn't talk about XYZ.
Right, which happens a lot in media.
And sometimes it's unavoidable. It's like if you don't talk about XYZ, then you look like the anchor.
You're doing a disservice as a
journalist. Yeah, they look like, well, why'd they avoid that?
Yeah.
So we don't do that often, but there are on occasions where something's been so far, it's already been discussed. They've already made their round of appearances on other talk shows or radio shows or news shows.
And they come on our show because we said we wouldn't talk about it almost. Right.
So, well, there's a classic example is the Mel Gibson story, which I won't go deep into the weeds about it, but we all know about Mel Gibson and what he said. And
he called Dean an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. We can say it is my channel.
But he also, Mel Gibson had addressed that on a national level. But we had a one-on-one satellite interview with Dean and him, and I believe the PR people said, hey, please don't bring it up. He feels like he's already addressed it.
He said some
on a national level.
Stuff. Yeah, that's right.
But Dean, being a journalist, felt like, he may have done that on a national level, but he hasn't done it with me and on our show. So I'm going to bring it up.
And we're the #1 show in Chicago.
Yes, we are the #1 show. So he brought it up, and Mel had a soundbite. But I don't know that it was from Dean's perspective, if it really was enough. So I think Dean kind of went there again with it.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe went there a third time. And
visibly pissing him off.
Yeah. So
but Dean doing his job as a journalist.
Yeah. Mel dropped down asshole. So, was he wrong? No. Dean was. It was a story, and he wanted to address the elephant in the room.
Right.
And wasn't going to let a PR person persuade him not to bring it up, because then you look like an idiot. Yeah, he addressed it maybe nationally, but this is very fresh, still in the news, and he hasn't addressed it with me.
Right.
So I need to get comment from him. And if it wasn't sufficient enough response, Dean felt the need to go further with it, and it upset Mel. And that's going to happen.
Right. And look how it turned out for Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
So I think Dean was right.
Yeah, Dean's still employed, and I don't know what
and Mel Gibson's doing D-rated movies on the red box outside the Jewel.
Yeah.
But I think I really admired the way that you would pour yourself into making sure that not only that the guest was properly vetted, but also going through great lengths, because working on the #1 morning show in Chicago, it can be demanding, right? And we have, I say we because I still feel like I'm there, but it feels very much like that. And I mean this with all due respect to our anchors. They demand a lot from the segment producers, as they should, right? They're the ones on TV, so they ask a lot of questions. And sometimes they ask 40 questions to ask one question on TV, right? So I just would always remember you pouring, I hope they ask this one. I don't want them to ask this one. Or please, I hope they got enough sleep last night, because certain ones could be a little cranky, and some, honestly, anchors don't always like the guests we book, right?
Well, and the tough part is that sometimes these guests are really good gets.
Yeah.
But if they're not familiar with them,
right?
You want them to be able to fake their interest in it.
Yes.
But we're so real, and at times so snarky, that I worried that oh no, they're not gonna I remember I had to fight. He's not popular necessarily right now. There was a guy named Manu Bennett, and he's a studly dude. And I'm trying to think what show he was in, but I had to really do a hard sell on him. But he came on and he was fantastic, and he did his tribal dance because he's Australian, and he's got this Aboriginal kind of connection to this warrior dance that they would do, and he did that on during his interview. And I remember afterwards, because honestly, Robin kind of fought me on it. Like, who is this guy? I don't know who he is. Our viewers probably don't know who he is. Why are you pushing this guy? And I'm like, trust me, he's a very good looking guy. He's going to be a very interesting guest. And there are a big number of people out there watching that are going to be excited to see him on our show. And she was blown away. And after it was done, I think I got an email saying, you were right. So,
Right.
And you don't get that all
No,
the
those
time.
are far and few between.
Right. So when you get a
being
you're
honest.
right thing, you'd like,
You want to frame that and put it up on the wall.
put
right?
it on the fridge with a little magnetic fruit
Yeah.
to hold it up there. But
I remember even the dominatrix yodeler girl. Remember
Yes,
her walking
yeah.
around the newsroom? That was one where everybody was like, "What are we doing?"
What?
And then when she came out, we're like, "Oh, I totally get it."
she did Highway to Hell,
Yeah.
and she yodeled it on top of where the news writers work.
Oh, that was
And her
great
big
TV.
tall heels and bustier, and she's German, and it was quite a sight.
It was one of those moments where.
And then
it
there are
made-
moments, there are things that will never happen again. Like there was a fake gay German punk band called Pink Steel. And their song was "No girls, just boys. We're gonna have a sausage party tonight."
Yeah, I don't think that would fly
Those
today.
are the lyrics. And Jeff Garland was on after them, and I remember him coming to the set. And live on the air, the first thing he said, he's like, "No girls, just boys. Gonna have a sausage party tonight." So like really stuck with him. But there's so much now because of our culture and the way things evolve, and I'm not gonna say in a bad way, but we used to do
Hooter's fashion show, yeah.
Hooter calendar, they're in bikinis. Hey, let's have Hooter girls in their bikinis model and do a fashion show to promote their calendar,
which went to a good cause.
which went to veterans.
Yes, people lose
But
that.
the whole, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. You know, it's got, now it's kind of creepy if you do that. You know, we're older now. Like, you know, you get these 19-year-old girls that are trying to win the Hooters contest so they can invest that money in some new friends, if you know what I mean. So
Ding,
it's
ding.
it's a little creepy now to do those segments, and because of our culture, we have to evolve, and our show has evolved.
I think that's one thing we've
Sexy
done.
lingerie fashion show.
Yeah, maybe not so much
sexy
anymore.
Halloween fashion show. Those were things I used to produce, and it's like I'm fine with those going to the wayside. They didn't make or break us then. They won't make it. Well, they'll break us now.
Yeah, they will definitely.
So we have evolved. We have found a way to still be edgy without being offensive, I think, in the most part. Borderline inappropriate at times. Maybe I'm speaking about myself and my contributions.
Stay in your lane.
But yes, stay in your lane. Count to 1,000. That's
If
a
you
little
know, you
inside
know.
baseball. Yeah, if you know, you know. I'm drifting off topic.
No, it's fine. This is why
I'm blaming this delicious Vermentino wine.
here at
Linford Winery in Roselle.
Yes. So we've talked in the bubble of sharing that is that office in the back there. You know, Tyra kept us on
The
her
Petri
toes.
dish.
Yes. And Tyra had her own set of skills where she
We
made
have
us
our own set of skills.
she made us very aware of things and how to look at things differently. And I think you did the same for Tyra, and you know, I did a little bit of both for you. We all worked together, and I felt like that's what made the show so great. But before you got to the show, you would talk about your mom, and you would talk about, there was a point in your life, and I don't remember 100% where it was, but you talk about how your mom basically called you and told you kind of to get your head out of your ass. Like, you're good, go leave Michigan, because you're from St. Joe, right?
Yeah.
And leave Michigan and go be you, Jeff. Go be that. She knew you before you did.
I was voted most likely to succeed and most dramatic in high school. Went to Western Michigan University, studied marketing because they were known for their business school. Did theater there. I had got roles in shows I had no business being in, but I did well enough in the auditions to get these great opportunities. I really enjoyed theater, but I was too scared to put all those eggs in that basket.
Sure.
Thinking, you know, there are a lot of people out there waiting tables, waiting for that moment to you know, get on Broadway or get a TV show or whatever. And so I was always very realistic, whereas my mom and dad, mostly my mom, were always rah-rah cheerleading me and throughout my whole
Right,
life.
that's something I remember from day one of working with you, you talking about your parents. And
So when I graduated college, I thought I had a lined up sure thing with alumni who graduated from Western, who had his own advertising agency in Buffalo, New York. So the day after I graduated, I borrowed my dad's little pickup truck and drove to Buffalo, New York, met with this guy. I thought it was going to be a sure thing. He looked at my portfolio. Well, this is pretty good. It's all right. I've seen that before. Closed it about halfway through, pushed it back towards me on his desk. He said, what you should do is go back and maybe work on some more ad campaign ideas for products or services that exist or don't exist. And then when you're ready, maybe give me a call. Maybe we can have another meeting. But yeah. And I was so defeated. I thought, what am I going to do? I mean, I didn't have any other plan. So I went back to my mom and dad's house, hiding as much as I could from the public, because here I was voted most likely to succeed. Got a job in a radio station. I was on the air and I sold radio advertising.
Yeah.
But, I mean, come on, it's a small little town
Sure.
in St. Joe, Michigan. They gave me a phone book. There you go.
the old school
Yeah.
way.
I mean, I remember calling on Great Lakes Hypnosis Center. And this is one lady out of her house. And she spent $100 on her Yellow Pages ad, which is how I found her. I met with her. And I was too honest. I said, I could take that $100 with you. And I could come up with a 30-second spot. And it might get 2 or 3 plays. I couldn't even tell you what time of day or night it would air. But that would eat up your budget that you use for your ad that lasts for a whole year in the phone book. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't do that. So I'd go back to the station. Well, how'd it go with Great Lakes Hypnosis Center? I'm like, she had $100. Well, did you get it? No. It's doing her better service to be in the Yellow Pages. But they wanted you to be like, get that money.
Sure.
But other sales guys would be like, hey, I got this auto parts store. I need a campaign idea. So I would help them on the ad campaigns. I'd do the voices. Hey, my restaurant, they want to do a thing. Do you got any ideas for that? So I became like my own, like almost individual creative service within this radio station where I was like a go-to person. I wasn't getting extra money for it.
Of course not. That's right.
And I wasn't making any money selling because there was really very few places that I could call on. So anyway, I was spinning my wheels. I did have a pretty hot girlfriend at the time, but that was about the only positive thing. I was seeing, I went to a video store. I'll try to make this a little shorter. There was a video store that all the sales guys tried to call on to get them. This is when VHS was huge, right? Like in the late 90s. Right?
Sure.
So I called in this place, and they actually, I convinced them to buy, and they saw results. And I was like the hero back at the station. How did you sell? I'm like, I don't know. I just showed them the power of advertising. It started with them giving away a VCR in one of our, giveaway things. They were mentioned so they heard themselves on the air and they got excited, like, ooh. And then it happened from that. So they ended up hiring me because they knew I wasn't making any money at the radio station. But then I became like a manager now it's like
now you're
worse.
working at a video
Now
store.
I'm living in my parents' basement, working at a video store, telling Cheryl Ann she can't have Saturday off because that's our busiest night. And I'm seeing old teachers that I used to have going into the beaded room, coming up to the counter with Ebony Humpers 3. And it's like, I'm trying to hide from them. They're trying to hide from me.
That's so awkward.
And that's when this is the big moment you're waiting for. And thank God it happened. My mom one day said, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm making a sandwich. She's like, no, what are you doing here? There's nothing here for you. And boom, I got mad initially. I was like, oh, you want me to move out? All right, I'll move out. But then I knew what she was saying. She was like, there isn't anything here for you. Like, you need to go. Like, the bird needs to leave the nest.
Mm-hmm. How old were you at this time? About?
I was probably 24.
Okay, you're still a baby.
Which isn't embarrassing. I'm sure there's plenty of 24-year-olds living at home or whatever. And they were very patient with me. I Mom, Dad, Harlem Nights came out on VHS. You want me to bring it home tonight? I mean, I did what I could to try to bring something home to make them happy and proud. But I realized that I was in a rut, and I needed that. And as much as it hurt to hear, it was true. And I called a friend that I'd went to college with, who I knew moved to Chicago, and I said, "Hey, I need to get out of here." And he's like, "Great timing. Remember Bundy?" And he was another guy we went to college. "He's living with me. We got another room. It's open and available to you." He goes, "You know what? Second City's like a mile,
you're
a
in
mile
Old Town
from here.
neighborhood, right?
You ought to come." And so I'm like, so I did. I had no job lined up. I had enough because I was living home. I had some money saved up, and my parents helped move me in, and I got a job at a temp agency because I sold my car. I took 2 trains and a bus to Skokie and worked for United Consumers Club, where I'd be calling people.
Which, by the way, Skokie is not close.
No,
to
not
Old
close.
Town. Not at all.
As a matter of fact, when I would end the night at like 9 or 10 at night, I would pack jogging clothes because one of the buses no longer ran at that time. So I'd run a couple miles to the second bus to get to CTA to then get back to Armitage and Halstead.
Oh my God!
And I would eat ramen noodles. I would eat tomato soup, sometimes just out of a can. You know,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Temperature.
Yeah.
I'll never forget those stories. Those lean and mean, days where, and I eventually stopped. My mom and dad, God bless them both, would send me money, but I got to a point where I refused to take their money. I would do whatever I could to not take that money because I needed to be self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. And then one of those companies hired me. One of these in-store marketing companies. It was a temp job. They hired me, and that's when I was listening to Brandmeier, and that's when he did the Jerry Lewis contest, the best Jerry Lewis impression contest, wins tickets to see the show. I call in, I win the tickets. They liked me so much, they kept my name on file. Anytime Jerry came up in the news, they would call me at work. "Hey, you're interested in being on the air with Johnny?" And then they would manufacture opportunities like, "Hey, we're doing a Halloween seance. Johnny wants Jerry's help to conjure up other dead," he was alive, Jerry, at the time.
Sure.
"To conjure up dead celebrities." And one day I'm like, what am I doing? This is fun. This is something I want to do. So I sent him a cover letter and resume, and he wrote back like a month later, and it's Brandmeier station head, and it said, "Timing is everything, JB." And I'm like, what's that mean?
What's that? Yeah, what?
And then like another month later, I'm at the bar. Surprise.
Shocking, right?
Across the street, Lowry's Tavern, which I also worked at like on Sundays when they were dead. I have no business being behind a bar as a bartender, unless I'm pouring beer or simple drinks. Luckily, it was slow. But anyway, my roommate called and said, "Hey, Brandmeier just called." And that's when he said, "Hey, I don't know anything about you other than you had a marketing degree and you do a damn good Jerry Lewis. I can offer you," I think at the time, it was maybe 16 grand.
Oh, yeah, sounds about right for radio back then.
Yeah, "I can offer you that. After 90 days, if it goes well, we'll bump that up a little bit and go from there." So I'm thinking, I'm single. I got no car. I got my rent's cheap enough. I had a roommate at the time. I'm like, let's do it. And I haven't looked back. Brandmeier gave me my foot in the door.
Yep.
And then Larry Potash gave me my other foot in the door. And so I'm good. I'm in a great place. I've got, I hope, another good 10 years in me. And then who knows what I might be doing. I might be working here.
I know, for some reason I see you working like somewhere in Napa. I'll walk into Napa one day.
All right, you just had the gold medal Riesling. We're going to now move on to our dessert wine.
Right. Oh, and here's Robert Mondavi right here. No, or whatever.
Right.
For some reason I see you there sometime, either as a snowbird job or what, but it's always been, when we first started working together, I didn't work with you directly. I worked on the midday show, and we were kind of in competition, natural competition.
Do you remember our first collaboration? I do.
Oh, please remind me.
Foreigner,
yes.
Foreigner, you got Foreigner on, and they were, for some reason, I think they were loading in during our morning show was on, and I came to you and I said, dude, that's awesome. You got Foreigner. Any way we can, like, will they do like an extra song that then we can play on a morning show? And it was great. And they friggin' rock.
They had
I'm
their
old, but
entire setup
yeah.
in there too. It
Yeah.
wasn't like a couple guitars. They had stage, they had lights, and I even remember Caputo going, "What the hell did you do?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You told me to book bands. We're booking bands." Greg."
That was a huge get. I mean, I know some of you may be watching a Foreigner, but I mean, this was like, God, it had to have been more than 15 years ago.
Yeah, and hearing Hot Blooded, like that was might have been my first year at WGN, and
that was a huge get to get them in. I mean, we've had Cheap Trick
Jukebox
in.
Hero, but there was the full band.
Full
in
band.
their-
I mean, the whole setup. Like, if you were to go see them at
they
Chicago
brought
Theater, or
they brought the
whatever.
Chicago Theater into Studio
The
what is
old
that?
Bozo.
Studio One,
Yeah,
which is now Daytime Chicago.
right.
Which is why there is not that many morning show bands anymore.
Right, because
there's no
we do them
studio.
in the newsroom in front of that vid wall, which is like cable access.
Yes.
So, any of you bands out there, hit up Daytime Chicago because they have a little space for band setups. And unless they're interested in having them on too, you'll never. That's the hard part. We can't get a band on to end our.
Which we
at
used to do all the time.
9:50,
Right.
Get a good band like Wilco on.
Right. Which we've had on.
Yeah,
Right.
But you can't, get them out of there in 2 minutes when Daytime Chicago has to go on at 10.
I think a lot of people would be shocked at what it takes to put a band on TV.
Yeah.
From the sound checks, because we've been in this situation when a band shows up late and it's at 9:50 their hit time. They roll in at WGN at 9:30, and you're like, "There's no way." And then you beg Lothar to somehow magician them to get on TV. And you know what? To Lothar's credit, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, they're on TV in some way, shape, or form. Maybe at 9:55, but either way, Wilco. I mean, we did a great thing with Wilco a bunch of years ago where they had we made the studio like a cocktail lounge. But I can remember countless bands that show up late and somehow Lothar gets them on TV, and I think that speaks volumes to what WGN is. Like, there's nobody there that's like, "Nah, screw you, you're gonna fail." Most people are like, "No, let's figure this out. Let's do it."
We should probably there should be a book that's got contributions from all of us that have worked on the show with some of our odd stories.
Yes, it would be a great book.
Run-ins with guests, difficult guests, great guests, behind the scenes stuff, because hopefully this is not off color, and I
it's
love
all
the
right.
guy, but Eddie
That's what it is, right? And I know I won't speak for Tyra, but I will know, I do remember one vivid story about Sting in Tyra, and
he doesn't smell very clean.
No.
Is what the rumor is on that.
right, and she confirmed that, but she didn't care because she got to cuddle up with Sting in a picture, and good for Tyra, amazing. But those stories
And
alone.
there was Sybil Shepherd, I think she was on the Midday News, and she's the only guest that I'm aware of who pulled that Hollywood move of where the PR person came and told everybody that potentially could be in the way from her green room or makeup room to the studio.
Yep.
Do not make eye contact.
Yep.
Do not address her. Do not talk to her. Do not ask for anything signed.
Real life story.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's only been a handful of
And Tyra Banks. That
Tyra
was another
Banks.
one where we had to kind of walk on eggshells that
Yep,
day where she
yep.
was there. And Tyra, our Tyra, was at full salute that day because she was kind of the person who had to handle that. Because let's be honest, just like when there's a great chef in studio and people show up with their Tupperware containers to take the amazing food that Emerald Lagasse makes for the staff, there are people who show up out of the woodwork to want to take photos of the biggest celebrities on the planet. People we've never seen at the station show up. And they're like, "Can I get a photo with Tom Hanks?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "No, who are you?"
Well, speaking of him, we all wanted the day he was on to have a picture with him. Thank God he was the one who goes, when we did this whole welcome with people dressed up as different characters that he played in his movies, and we didn't know how he would react to that, and he did. He was so wonderful.
He was. It was one of the best moments of live television in the history of Chicago.
We all were standing there in that little demo set area in our costumes, and all of us. This was near the beginning of social media. It had been out for a while, but we were all kind of, "Oh, how great would it be to have a picture with Tom
Right.
Cruise?" Or Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise.
And Tom Cruise.
But Tom Hanks, he was the one that said, hey, where are you guys going? Come over here. I want a picture with you guys. So he initiated that,
Yeah.
which was awesome. Which again shows you just how cool Tom Hanks is.
Well, so speaking of guests, and guests they make or break sometimes the year, the show, or the sweeps, right? Sometimes we try to, I remember on the midday show we had Wayne Newton, so I wanted to recreate Donkashane on the river, and it was fine, it was great, but we do those things when we have these guests. But is there a guest that, Tom
Not
Hanks,
only that, you brought him from the river, and then did he end up in our studio, right?
That's right.
And there was a whole Casino Vegas thing.
That is right.
So that was all you, buddy.
That was a lot of fun. And you know what? I got to give kudos to Greg and Jen for allowing us, because if it wasn't for Greg or Jen, at least in my time, to allow us to be who we were, I don't know if we would have gotten away with half of the stuff I don't know if it would happen now.
I just met with Brandmeier, Jonathan Brandmeier, the other day, and he was like, "What do you do?" And I tried to explain it, and I told him about some of the things we've done, and he's like, "Wait, and you didn't get permission for that?" I'm like, "No,
we built
because we got the support,
Yeah.
and it may be a little bit different now because, again, just because of the way things are now, and people are wanting to come after you sometimes, and maybe try to cancel you and all that stuff, so." In the past, you would do it and apologize,
ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah. But now you kind of if you have a second thought about something, you better run it by somebody so it doesn't bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
But not too long ago, you didn't have to do that as much as you kind of. Now you kind of have to go.
Yeah, you do have to adjust
This
with the
joke
times.
might be a little too much. I better ask.
Well, speaking of too much, was there a guest in your career where you're like, oh shit, this one's gonna get me in trouble?
Well, one, I avoided getting in trouble because I truly didn't know what they were saying.
Right, and sometimes people don't realize we have no idea what these guests
There's
will
a
say.
band called Here Come the Mummies. It was near Halloween. They perform rock and roll music, original rock and roll music,
Okay.
dressed as mummies. And the name of the song, as I understood it, was Kinda Lingers.
I remember.
Kinda lingers. Kinda lingers in the morning. Kinda lingers at night. And so I'm like, hey, that's a great song. Well, when they performed it on the air, I got called into the control room by a very panicked stagehand. Like, you need to go to the control room now. And they're like, Jeff, are you listening to this? And I'm like, yeah, they're Kinda Lingers. And they're like, no, listen. Listen more closely. The singer was saying, cunnilingus in the morning, cunnilingus at night. And I'm like, holy crap. And so I went in there and they played, when the show ended, it was because it was like 9:55.
Sure,
and they did
play us out.
Did the whole song.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I am going to get in so much trouble. And they're like, they played it, here they are, and they're dressed as mummies, like completely wrapped as mummies. And you could understand them. And they're like, no, it's Kinda Lingers. And I'm like, get out of here. I'm lucky. And then David Carradine said the F word.
Oh, that's right.
Legendary.
Whoa, hey, David. We are on the air right now.
No, you said I could do that.
Yeah.
We've had
That
band.
Pink Steel, fake German gay heavy metal band. Just before they did their first tease, the guy had a big couple of socks in his tights to make it look. And I'm like, no, take that out. I mean, there's been some close calls on some stuff that.
I'm sure I can't speak for you on this one, but from my experience, I've walked into a green room where I am fairly certain people just finished snorting cocaine.
There is a star that I know it seemed like he did, because a lot of sniffling and a lot of the nose thing. I'm not going to say who it is, but that David Carradine definitely had a flask in his back pocket.
Oh yeah, people showing up drunk happen all the time.
Yep.
Especially before the pandemic. It was just, do you remember the story about the mad crapper? The guy that pooped by the helipad?
And amazingly, I believe he was a child
He
psychiatrist.
was, and he was my guest. I booked him.
And before he came into the building, he thought it'd be a good idea to take a crap out by where the helicopter lands, in this little sketchy little couple of little small tree area, instead of coming inside like a normal person.
Which is right by PS a preschool.
So yeah, there's been like I said, there needs to be a book.
Yeah, there it does.
This video should be accompanied by a book.
I know. We'll
buy.
get writing on it.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to wrap it up because it's gone long, but this is great stuff. No, I love it, and this will be in its entirety. But and you probably don't think it's funny, but I have not laughed as hard as I laughed when you lost your shit when you did Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Yeah, International Talk Like a Pirate.
I remember you saying, I'm going to shave the barnacles off your ass, and that was it. I went blue. I laughed so hard because it was live TV when it was failing, and I don't take pleasure in your misery on camera, but you handled it like it was a scripted thing. I remember it vividly happening. I remember sitting in that office watching you thinking, oh no, like Jeff's dying, but God, is he handling it well? And he's basically ripping on the stagehand.
I'm ripping on the stagehands, but I should have been ripping on myself because I thought I knew I should not be in the rundown. I went into the rundown and typed in my own jokes.
I'm gonna scrape the barnacles off your ass. Could somebody fix this, or am I just gonna flop right here and there?
Sorry, we're out of time. Thank you.
Blow me down.
Hashes and hyphens and things that as I would read it off the teleprompter, I thought would help me give emphasis to certain things, not knowing that some of those punctuations and some of those things that I was putting in there would throw it all out of whack.
Right.
So I'm reading the teleprompter, and then at one point, none of my dialogue that I had scripted into there was there. It was all black. And I'm thinking that the stagehands are messing with me. And I don't have it memorized. And it's live TV, like
And
you
some
said.
of our stagehands, to be honest, sometimes we're falling asleep at, 7 o'clock
so
in the morning.
I'm like going, so I'm immediately thinking they're messing with me. I'm in character as a pirate. But yet I'm really, it's like, it's one time a year I get to do this bit. And the teleprompter is screwing up. So, I mean,
if you roll, I remember you going, if you roll the teleprompter.
I really thought they were jacking with me, and ultimately it was my fault. But thank God I stayed in character.
That's what made it
used
so
my
funny.
anger as a Long John, John Johns, or whatever my character name is. I stayed in character. It kind of went viral. It got picked up because, like you said, it was so like, oh my God, this guy's really mad.
Well,
And being really mad in a pirate costume,
I'd talk like
works.
a pirate day.
Yeah.
That was so
the
great.
one time a year.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it happens on a weekend. I can't even do the bit. So it happens during the week when our show is on. I'm all excited. I got some really bad pirate jokes. A couple are good, and boom, it probably worked out better that it was that it screwed
It was
up.
gold.
Yeah.
And I remember me and Tyra dying because Tyra just kept going, oh, poor Jeff. And I lost it. I haven't laughed that hard in my life. But in that moment on a little screen in our
It's
office.
on YouTube. Look it up.
Oh, it's
WGN, Talk Like a Pirate Day. I'm sure it'll come up.
It is fantastic. But it's just one of those things where when live TV goes awry and you can't control it, like when somebody swears, or like you have to like figure it out right there in front of everybody. And you did, and it was great. And I think that speaks to you as a person, because so the other thing that people probably don't realize about WGN is that, essentially they're like your brothers and sisters. So you fight like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And you get passionate, you get upset, you get in arguments, and every one of us has been pushed to the brink of probably tears because you're fighting for something, you're frustrated with something. But that all goes into, if you didn't care about it, it wouldn't matter this much. But you do, and that is why I wanted to talk to you in this moment here, because I admired your passion for your job, and I admired that you didn't want to suck. And I think that gets lost a little bit in the WGN, culture of like put the suck and succeed. We embrace that, but we really try not to suck, and I think we accept what our flaws are as a station and our budget, and I think that's what comes across so well. Like, I think Pat this week alone has talked about how much they spend on promotional items for like opening day or whatever else. We're giving away pens, we embrace that. But everybody that, when I was there, I can speak for, everybody that I saw, nobody did anything half-assed. Everybody put their heart and soul into it, knowing that sometimes they get their teeth kicked in. And I don't know if that's either glutton for punishment or just people who really care about what they do and they want it to be great.
It's definitely a dysfunctional family, and Larry and Robin are sometimes like a mom and dad. And, there's less than a handful of times that mom and dad got in a fight in front of the kids.
Right.
And
it's so true, though.
I remember one time, and hopefully they won't be mad that I bring this up, but it was around the holidays, and Larry wanted to book a counselor to talk about how the holidays are difficult on people and suicide rates go up. And Robin, to her credit, expressed like, gosh, that's kind of a downer topic. Really, do we need to do this? And then Larry was like defending it because he's like, the reality is there are some people that don't like the holidays.
Right, high suicide rate.
Very depressed. I think it's a story. And then it went another level where Robin realized, because it was like in a futures meeting, that's when we talk about the next 2 weeks of shows, and she realized that Larry wasn't going to be around, be there for a segment that he was so passionate about.
Classic.
And they end up kind of like getting up, kind of having some words, and kind of blah, 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 and leaving all of us kids in the meeting room, and we're all like, Mom and Dad are getting in a fight. But that's the reality, like if you don't agree with something, or if you really have something that you feel strongly about, you got to make yourself heard, hopefully in a way that's professional and you're not crushing somebody's soul.
Right, because you put yourself out there when you...
I know from my experience with Brandmeier, and to some degree it's happened in TV too. It's like, during a show and you're on deadlines and you got certain times you have to be out of something to be into something, and it's very regimental. Things are scheduled and everything's got to fit, and there's a timing and blah blah blah. Sometimes in the heat, like Brandmeier would refer to as like, this is war. We've got other stations that people could be listening to. So what happens when we're on the air? I might be short with you, but know that it comes from a place where we're in the fight.
Right.
And don't take it personally.
Yeah.
We can talk about it after the show, but during the show sometimes you don't have time to be
I don't really care
warm
about your
and
feelings.
fuzzy and
Right.
let's sit down and let's talk about our feelings. It's like, no, we got to do it. And then sometimes it can be a little jarring and rub you the wrong way.
Trial by
Yeah.
trial by fire.
Yeah, but for the most part, I think, we the reason we're successful is chemistry, and we do good work. The credibility of the news has always been there. Without that, you can't goof.
Right, because then you're not credible.
Right.
Nobody will take you seriously.
Right. And how I would have thought 10 years ago, we would have been a little long in the tooth and like, all right, Friday dances, really? Are we still doing that? It's like, yeah, we are, because we still have moments that fit for Friday
Those spontaneous
dance.
moments where if it's in a guest or an
is
around
Larry
town
going to
shoot,
jump on the anchor desk and do a Fred Sanford? Probably not anymore. But we have found other things that we do. The show has evolved. Mm-hmm. We're not stuck in the mud. We may feel like we are sometimes, but we're not. When you look at the other shows, and we hear about it all the time. I was a kid watching your show with my parents, and then I'd come home from college and I'd be watching your show. Now I'm married, I have kids, they're watching the show. It's generational.
right, which is very unique.
Yeah.
Very unique in any kind of broadcast.
And especially with the options for streaming and satellite radio, all the different options people have. The fact that we have such loyal viewers that are dedicated, that give us the time that they give us, I mean, I don't know what the average time spent watching is, but I see the texts, and I see some of the same numbers, and they're throughout, from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. So there are people that watch all 6 hours of a show. I mean, it's incredible.
It is incredible.
And I also see the texts that are negative.
The
about
naysayers.
myself,
plenty.
about everybody. Like,
yeah.
the minute any of us get too cocky and feel like, yeah, come on, no. There are boo birds for everybody.
Chicago Joe will throw a turd into the punch bowl, to use a Jeff Hoover term.
Yeah.
So the last question, and we'll be done, and thank you for being so honest and open.
Yeah.
I know that you said you're good where you're at right now. Like you like filling in, you like doing your things and this, that, and the other thing. I also know that you do like doing hosting gigs. Like you did something for, what's his name from Jaws.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, you did hosting. What's the actor?
Richard Dreyfuss.
Thank you, Richard Dreyfuss. You did like a Q&A with Richard Dreyfuss and things like that. Is there anything like that you want to do?
I did one
in the
with
future?
Michael Rooker.
Yeah, like
I like doing
speaking
that.
of trying to fight for guests, I know that you fought the good fight for years for Walking Dead guests. When everybody else said no, you're like, no, there's this show on AMC that you need to watch. When nobody would give you that, and then it blew up to the biggest
watched
show.
it. Pat Tomasulo watched it, but then when Negan bashed a bunch of heads, I was
poor Glenn.
Yeah, I was the last man standing. By the way, watch his show Beef on Netflix.
Oh, I just saw that.
It's good.
Yeah, okay.
It's really good. He's a really good actor, incredible actor. Original story. You should really watch it. But yeah, Walking Dead. Yeah, I stayed with it.
But where is it? Is there something when you're done and you're retired from WGN? When you walk out on your own, is there something else that you want to do? Like what's Jeff doing in 15 years from now?
I think I don't know. I like to think that I know I kind of jokingly say a book, but I think there could be a book about my life. I know it sounds like who wants to read about your life, but I took a path. Things fell in line, and nobody's going to be able to follow that same path. I think it's kind of an interesting story. I think some kind of story about my life and the road I took to get where I've been. I've been really blessed. I worked for a #1 radio show, a #1 TV morning news show.
You had a great support from your parents, your wife, your friends.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be real. I mean, I didn't go to journalism school. I didn't go to broadcast school. I really kind of stumbled. I stumbled my way through, but I had. God, I'm gonna sound like such a jerk. I had to have had something, right? Because you can stumble your way through anything, but to stumble into two great things like Brandmeier and WGN Morning News, I had to have had something. There had to have been.
You had
if anything, I wish I would have come to Chicago sooner. I went through Second City. I got to the main stage. I did the children's show. I didn't do the main stage show that like Steve Carell and Amy Poehler and all those great Second City people did. But I did the children's show. I don't know. Maybe if I would have come to Chicago sooner, things would have been different. But then maybe I wouldn't have met Tracy.
Right, which is a huge part of your life.
Right.
Like we haven't talked about it all that much.
No.
We did in the beginning, but Tracy.
She's somebody when I was unemployed with when Brandmeier didn't sign in 2001, she supported us because we were freshly married and we lived in an apartment together, and I was on monster.com looking for jobs. I'm like, do I want to be an assistant car rental manager? And I'm looking at these jobs. I'm like, Tracy, do you want me to be an assistant car rental manager? And she goes, do what you want to do. I will support what you want to do.
And somehow you found the one in a million, possibly 10 million opportunity job. One in like Brandmeier morning show. I mean, it speaks volumes.
But look how they happened. One was like a call-in contest. It started from that. And the other one came from watching a show and then calling into that show.
Advocating for yourself.
So it's I don't know, it's that guerrilla style, like
It's
But
something.
yet I didn't know at the time what I was doing. I was just reacting to a gut instinct. Like, hey, they're talking about Jerry Lewis. I do kind of a Jerry Lewis. I don't have any material. Well, I've got some improv skills through seconds. Well, I'll just call in and see what happens. Boom, that happens. He takes a chance on me. I take a chance on myself. I learn, I use it, I remember it. I bring that to over, I call into TV. And then I take those skills and they believe in me there. And they support me there. And here I am today. I'm living the best life. I've got a great wife, I got a great job, I got great friends like you, and people that believe in me more than I believe in myself. And that's probably the biggest thing, is that having people that believe in me has gotten me where I am now.
Yeah. No,
Without that, I wouldn't be here.
And
Because I, to this day, second guessed doing this.
I know. I'm very
This
pleasantly
helps,
surprised.
but it's not a crutch. But you asked me, hey, find a place you feel comfortable. This is my second home. And
Yep.
that's your train, I think. No,
That's
but
all
thank you for having me.
And
I'm living the best life, and it's through the love and support I've had from family and friends and coworkers. And cheers.
cheers to that, Jeffrey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so candid with me. And he's already finished his wine, or I hasn't. I've finished my wine. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And
very
thanks
much.
for watching. I hope you were entertained and informed and not bored.
Or educated, right?
Want to see my butt crack? No.
All right, so that's the story of Mr. Jeff Hoover. Yeah. Tom Barnes Chicago at gmail.com. If you have a lot of wine today. If you have a suggestion for a story from the 78, and head over to the website for me, storiesfromthe78.com. We'll see you later. Linford Winery. You got to check this place out. I got to do a story here coming up. But either way, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.